So Databricks AIBI.
Okay.
What is this? So to set the stage, I think Databricks has had some degree of BI features for a while now. They acquired Red Ash in 2021 in order to up their BI game, and then of course we had the explosion of generative AI starting in 2022, 2023, and everybody's trying to do that. So what AIBI does is it kind of combines classic dashboarding features with some interesting AI components. Now, it's not really a unified feature set. It's really kind of two things. There's what you see here with dashboards. That's kind of the BI part of AIBI. And then we have Genie, which is the AI part of AIBI. And we'll go through both of them today in some detail. But let's start with dashboards. So let me go ahead and open one of these. So of course we're working from the sample data today, and right away you'll see with dashboards that this is pretty much, I think, what you would expect out of a dashboard product in 2025. It's straightforward. It's easy to use. It has most of the features that you would want. So here you can see an example of a dashboard. We're in edit mode right now. And to build a dashboard, you have a few objects you can put in here, okay? So you can insert new visualizations, you can add text boxes, and you can add filters. Everything exists on this 2D grid. So if I want to put in a new viz, you'll see that it gives me this kind of placeholder. I drag it around the grid, I drop it down, and then it inserts a kind of an empty viz box for me. And then I can build the new visualization two ways. I've got a pretty decent set of visualization options in this right-hand menu. And then I can also ask the assistant to create something using AI. And one of the things I like about what they've done is they've integrated the AI assistant directly into the visualization object itself, as opposed to being like a slide out menu or something like that. That I think is a nice little touch in here. Now the kind of slide out menu and chat with data, that does exist. And you're going to see that in Genie rather than here in kind of the dashboard section of AIBI.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see like how good, because we've seen like here's the chart builder for a while. It's probably been bad so far. So it'll be interesting to see if this is not bad.
Yeah, I mean, so like what you can do in here is I would say it's not bad, right? Is it amazing? No, it's not bad though. Like it's kind of like an 80-20 sort of thing, right? You have 80% of the functionality you would want with 20% of the complexity. So I'll use one of their suggestions here, total revenue by route, and you can see that it's going to generate the visualization for me. Okay, now like this. Maybe this isn't what I want. So I can reject it and it will back that out of whatever it is that I put in. Number of trips by pickup zip. And if say, oh yeah, that is what I want, I hit the accept button. And now it's just a normal visualization object. And I can edit it from here. So some BI tools, when you're using their chat features, sometimes they create an object that you can't really edit after the fact. But that's not the case here. This is totally editable. So, in here I can go through and say, oh, you know what? I want this to be a chloropleth map. And it says, hey, yeah, you can't, you chose the wrong thing, or let's do an area. That's interesting. Yeah. Data set route revenue. Oh, you know what? See, here's an example. It kind of messed up. I'm curious what it did there. Where it dropped the, the items out of here when I went to change it.
When you went to change it, like I wonder it's because you went to that chloropleth map or whatever.
Yeah.
And it it has different fields, so it dropped all the fields, so it doesn't have that history.
Yeah, that could be it. I mean, let's just try that again, right? Revenue distribution, see what it does. Okay. Pie chart, right? Like, okay, I'll accept that, but I don't want a pie. I want this to be a bar chart. And you can see there it goes ahead and renders the bar chart for you.
But I bet you if you went into that chloropleth or one, it would clear out everything because it has different fields.
Right, exactly. And so, what can you do here? I mean, this is pretty much what you would expect. Like you can change what's on the axes. You can, change colors. I want this to be red, right? The tooltip feature is pretty nice. It's basic, but you can say, drop off zip, and you can just add fields to the tooltip where when I hover over it, now it's showing the fields that I added to the tooltip. And then you can turn off and on labels. Now, this doesn't always, sometimes I hit this button and I'm like, what exactly did that do? It's like in this visualization, it's not clear. I can resize this. Oh, I want it to be bigger. It automatically scales with the sizing. Everything is snap to grid here. So you don't really have the ability to size off of the grid lines. And you don't have the ability to overlay objects on top of one another or anything like that, right? So again, for basic dashboarding, this is pretty competent, I would say.
I'd call this it's about what you expect.
It's about what you would expect. Yeah, I mean, and if we go back here and look at, oh, no, it is in this one. Let's let this reload. The table object too is kind of nice insofar as it's got some interactivity where you can filter it directly on there. And this is also the only place where I can find conditional formatting. So a lot of times people want to do conditional formatting, say on bars, where the bar is red if the value is over 10 and green if it's under 10 or something like that. You don't seem to be able to do that. The only place you can do that is on the table itself in the field values of your measures. So pretty straightforward so far, right?
Yeah.
It's got params and filtering and tabs. So all the filters are actual objects that you add to the canvas, right? They're not, you don't have a filter bar at the top or the side.
Or a fly outside panel.
Nope, nothing like that, right? It's straight up like an object that you add to the canvas. So if I wanted to drag another one on here, right, I can drop them anywhere. But there's no kind of filter panel. And then the text in here is pretty straightforward. It's Markdown, right? So,
okay, that's good. I'm always happy when things use Markdown.
Yeah, right.
It's easy, and it means it can basically anywhere.
And you can preview your Markdown, right? This is a header. There you go. So it's really straightforward. Now, who is this for? I think if you have data in Databricks and you want to visualize that data quick and dirty, get it out and share it with people. Right now, it's good for that. If you have more of an enterprise reporting need, or you're trying to build something more like a data app with more complex layouts or more complex behaviors, that's not here. For example, they have parameters, but the parameterization can affect formatting like it can in more enterprise grade BI tools. So I can't say if managers come in, show this scatter plot, but if workers come in, show this other chart.
Yeah.
Can't do anything like that. So it's pretty straightforward, but that's really what it does as far as visualizations. It is competent. It's like the minimum you would expect.
It's what you expect. It's we have a visualization component. It's okay, they took a look at Tableau and did let's do that. Okay, let's do an okay version of that, and then here you go.
Yep. And you can do things like, multi-filter, or these visualizations, you can say, okay, I want to filter just this visualization. So you can apply a filter here that only applies to this viz, but doesn't apply to anything else. It's pretty straightforward. Now, so I would grade this it's competent,
Mm-hmm.
But
I need a little interactive dashboard.
I want a little interactive dashboard, right?
Yeah, you're not sending out your monthly finance reports with this.
No, definitely not. And if someone wants what we do at Good Data is a lot of really much more complex kind of data applications. And we provide the semantic model and then the visualization and reporting infrastructure for that.
Gotcha.
And like that, you're not going to use this for that. This is more like, hey, we got data in Databricks. We just, we want to visualize it quickly and get it out to people quickly in a very basic and easy to consume format. Good for that.
Gotcha.
Now,
and then the data modeling is
let's take a look at the data modeling.
Yeah.
So the data modeling.
This is, yep.
is also
everyone
kind
does
of
it.
what you would expect. I would
Yep.
describe this on kind of like a hybrid data set workbook model. So,
Yep.
so this is kind of each dashboard has its own data model, and then you can create. You know, it can have one or more data sets in it. So it's not like some BI tools you have to have just a single data set that feeds the dashboard. That's not the case here. You can have 10 data sets that feed the dashboard, but you don't define a semantic model in here. You're not going to define joins. You're not going to do anything like that, right? If you want to do a join, like you have to create a new data set from SQL that defines the join, and then you use the output
in a viz that goes into your dashboard.
Exactly.
This is
exactly.
this is exactly how Superset did it.
Right. It's
because that's how Tableau does it. So and everyone is just looking at what Tableau does. Like, okay, we need a Tableau like.
Right.
So like,
now the caveat here, I would say, is that this is built on top of Unity Catalog. So if you have Unity Catalog and you have, say, like the Databricks medallion architecture with the gold layer that is like verified data sets for analytics and reporting purposes, that has a lot like where the work has already been done. The joins have already been defined. It's already, the semantics are already there, right? In a light way, because Unity Catalog is not a full-blown semantic layer, but it has some stuff in there for metadata and field aliasing and that sort of stuff. All that stuff's already been done in Unity Catalog. Great. You can just consume that in here, right? You can also define in here custom calcs and that sort of thing. Again, like via SQL, everything is via SQL. There's no proprietary language. There are like proprietary SQL functions, right? But there's no like, data DQL, the Databricks query language.
Oh yeah, or like like Power BI, you're writing DAX.
Exactly.
Which is like, couldn't you? I just created something normal. That's what
right,
every time I use Power BI. It's like, something normal.
It's funny. I was at Data Council, I think it was, and I was talking to one of the guys who made DAX.
Oh yeah.
And his criticism of it was, couldn't we have just created something normal?
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So they don't have anything like that. It's just SQL. Now you can define at this layer a calculation, and then that only exists in this layer. It doesn't exist in Unity Catalog. You can't share it with any other dashboards. And you don't seem to be able to like, I did all this work in this dashboard, and now I wanna make a new dashboard off of this work that I did at this level.
So like a data set can only feed one dashboard. Like they are tied together objects.
If you define it here. If the data set's defined in Unity Catalog, it can feed an infinite number of dashboards. And that's kind of where the fact that this is a BI tool that's sitting on top of a full-blown data platform means that, the BI component itself doesn't have some of the features you might expect, but they might exist in other parts of the platform.
Yeah.
Right?
Like lower in the stack.
Lower in the stack, yeah. Okay, so that's kind of how this works. So again, like pretty straightforward for what you would expect out of a BI tool. The last thing I want to highlight here when it comes to the BI functionality, and I would say again, folks, like, what do you think of this? Is this good? Is this bad? Would you use this? Are you a Databricks customer? And if you are, I'm really curious, if you are a Databricks customer, have you tried this? And what was your impression of it? Mm-hmm. Do you agree with me that like it's fine, but really only for kind of limited use cases where what you need is pretty basic? And then I think it's good. Like I would use it for that.
Yeah. Just looking at that, like my gut is saying like, oh, it'll be like as soon as the execs for some like advanced formatting, you're like, well, we can't sort it. We can't sort it that way. No, we can't expand that. You can only have 100 on a page, stuff like that.
It is going to have that kind of stuff for sure. And it's like, oh, well, I want a tooltip. Like, can the tooltip be another chart? And it's like, no. Nope. You're not going to do that. So the last thing I want to highlight in here before we look at Genie is kind of, okay, the underlying BI infrastructure. This is it, right? So you come in here and there's security in here, but this is the portal someone would come into to look at dashboards. Right? There's not a like prettier user-facing BI interface that I can find any evidence of that exists outside of this, right? So like this, what you see here is what you get. And then of course, you can share these. So they do have, there's no bursting that I can identify anywhere, but there is, like, you publish this, and they do give you some interesting publish options. So the first one is this embedded credentials. And what that means is that whoever views the dashboard will use your credentials as the author. So, when the SQL queries are issued, when you look at the log and it's like, who issued this query, it will be you, the person who built this dashboard. Even if the person who actually viewed it is, Sally in finance, in the query log, it'll say, Eric executed this query. And then everyone has, the other thing that this will do is everybody has a shared cache, right? So that actually is a big performance enhancement if you do it this way, because everybody has a shared data model. There's a shared cache. The cache lasts 24 hours from the publish date, so it refreshes every 24 hours. And that can really help improve performance when you have the shared cache. The other option is don't embed credentials. And what this does is it says, no, each individual who views this dashboard, use their credentials. So like if you have row level security, for example, you need to choose this option in order for row level security to apply, because each individual is authenticated as themselves when they view the dashboard, not as the dashboard author.
And I assume that row level security probably exists in on the Unity catalog layer.
It's not here. You don't define it here, right? You define it. So it's one of those things. If you just look at the BI tool and you say, does it have RLS? You'd say no, not strictly defined as what's in AIBI, but in reality, that capability exists.
If you're using this, it's because you have Databricks and the Unity catalog. And
right. I mean, you're not buying Databricks because you want this BI tool.
No.
But this is like a cherry on top.
Yeah.
And then
a maraschino cherry, not like a fancy cherry.
No, it's not the ones
a good everyday cherry.
Yeah.
For your ice cream sundae. Right.
No, exactly. It's not like the cherry you get in like a Manhattan in New York. Mm-hmm. That's a fancy cherry. This is not that. This is the cherry you get in a Wisconsin style old fashioned. So that pretty much covers, like, that's what the dashboarding tool is. That you saw it. That's it. So basic, functional. I like it. Like I could build something really quick in here. So that I like. But I could not really build I could not build anything complex, or if I had really or innovative, like either way. If someone had complex requirements, I couldn't do it. Or if you were like, I have this vision of what I want to build, you probably can't build it.
Gotcha.
But it's all right.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, that's that stuff. It's like, really, it's probably not in the roadmap anyway.
No,
like,
it's probably not.
Like this. Like, if you ask them what their intentions for with this product, it would not be to like, oh, we're really going to flesh out all these exact pixel perfect features.
Right.
In this.
No, surely that is not on the roadmap. John Standifer says DAX self-confessed fail. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, John. Okay, so that's the first half of what I wanted to show. That's the BI part of AIBI. And there's a little AI that we saw in there, but there's not a ton. Now let's shift gears and look at Genie. Genie is probably the more interesting part of what Databricks is doing here. So what we're looking at here is what's called a Genie space. So Genie is a chatbot that can answer questions and build visualizations about data. And we will deep dive it here. I would say, to start off with, it can answer SQL-like questions about data. Meaning, if you ask questions in like mostly about the data, who are my top customers is the easiest one to imagine, right? What you can't ask it, and it provides these examples, and these are customizable. I'll show you how to customize them. But this is what an end user sees when they log in. This is not some admin view we're looking at right now. This is what an end user sees. And you can customize, but these give you examples of the types of questions that can be asked. Like it's directly referencing the sales customers table, right? So you can ask, what's our revenue? Who are our top customers? Like you can filter, you can order, it will build calculations on the fly for you. It does it via text to SQL is what it's doing under the hood. And you can see the SQL it generates. But what it's not doing is say what Zenlytic does, which is, I'm looking to open a new store. Can you analyze where my existing customers are in Chicago and suggest the top 3 locations where it might make sense to build a new store? Right? It cannot do like a business question, a value question, a help me figure out X question. It can't do that.
Like whatever LLM is feeding this is like trained on like question. Here's the question. Here's the semantic model I have knowledge of, and here's a SQL to answer that question.
Yeah, and it's just not gonna like tell me the best place for like that example. I want to run a campaign. Like I have 3 ideas for a campaign. I'm going to describe them to you, and I want you to tell me which one is likely to be the most successful with this demographic based on our metrics.
Gotcha. So it's not like what they call like a reasoning model, as they call it.
No.
I think that's terminology people are using now for the ones that like think and iterate and be like, they asked this. I'm going to look this up. Based on these results, I'm going to look up this.
No, I mean, and it does like light.
Yeah.
So let's just dive into it, right? Like which product sold the most unit? So like which product sold the most unit? It's thinking.
It is thinking.
Yep. And here you go. Here's the product that sold the most units.
And then you can see the sequel. Right?
And you can see if you see show code, it will show you the SQL.
Yeah, limit 1 since you asked for the top.
Because you said product, right? Can you show the products instead? So you can kind of iterate. It's not like a one-shot.
Gotcha. So it is like doing some chatbot thinking.
Absolutely.
Thinking. There we go.
So here you can see, and now it will try to visualize
for us. Nice.
It will always give you a table, I find, and then it will also sometimes give you a visualization.
Okay.
Now you can change this visualization, and you have the same capabilities that you have in the BI side of AIBI, but you don't appear to be able to do anything with this.
You can't be like, this is great. Add this query to my queries, and then add this dashboard to this dashboard.
No.
Okay.
Nope. The only thing you can do with this is you can download a PNG. A PNG. Yep. That's it.
Collapse, edit.
Yep.
Now, gotcha. If you said make the bars red, would it change that configuration for you, or do you have to change the configuration?
Let's see. I haven't actually tried that. That's a great question. Now the bars are red.
Yep.
Right. Change it to a line chart. So it can do basic questions about data, and it can do these formatting changes, but it can't do the so what, right? Like the next step. If you discover something that's really interesting here, you have to like take the SQL out of here, plug it into dashboards, and then build, and so then recreate what you
if you ask it, brainstorm reasons that Austin Almonds might be the seller, or like, or whatever the Golden Gate, or whatever it is, Golden Gate, something.
Like who's the what's the name? I actually have the name of the company that's the top seller in this data set. What is it?
Golden Gate. If you scroll up, it'll show you Golden Gate product.
Yeah. Golden Gate Ginger. Brainstorm reasons Golden Gate Ginger might be our top product. So it is, I mean, it will, I can only assist with data analysis and queries related to the provided database schema. For brainstorming reasons behind the popularity of a product, you might want to consider these factors.
Okay, gotcha.
but it won't
Gotcha.
take a stab at it. It won't be like,
it won't do some queries. Well, like query this other table, and I
no,
think these sales are caused by this region or whatever,
exactly.
because all
Yeah.
the sales are in Wisconsin. So Wisconsin just loves these ginger cookies.
No, won't do it. Won't do it. And you also notice it won't answer questions in natural language, right? It will tell you what it did in natural language, but it won't actually say.
But it'll answer it with the results, with the query results, or a visualization based on the query results.
Exactly. So again, behind the scenes, each one of these is an SQL query. You can see the SQL query of the, on the table.
So we got Rich. It shows the SQL rates. Missed that part. Yeah, the
What's
SQL
that?
it rates. It asks us, so it shows the SQL that it rates. He missed that part.
Yeah, right here. Oh yeah, missed that part. Yeah, Rich. Yes, it shows the SQL. The SQL is right here.
Yep.
So, so like I said, it is useful. It's kind of what I would say is like the minimum bar you need to cross for a chatbot in the BI space. But it is not like doing reasoning or suggestions in the way that something like Zenlytic is.
Yeah.
And then it's also not integrated into BI like a good data. Ours is really integrated into BI. So like you're doing something in the chatbot, like you're looking at a dashboard, you're talking to the chatbot, it makes a viz that you like, and then you say, add that to the dashboard, and it does it. Right? Whereas this is kind of off on the side.
Yeah, it's not integrated.
Now it does do some interesting things. It has these follow-ups. It's funny, it's not suggesting any follow-ups right now, but normally there's like 3 buttons down here about next questions.
That's the magic about reviewing something giving a demo of something that's not your product. If it messes up, it's like, it messed up.
Yeah,
not my
exactly.
product.
Yeah, don't talk to me.
Don't talk to me.
So how do you actually build and manage these things, right? Well, the way that's done, and this is where I think what they're doing is more interesting. What we've seen so far is not that interesting. I mean, let's just be real. It's fine.
Yeah, it's cool.
What they're doing is more interesting is how do you actually build these things? So when you click this configure button, end users will not have this button, but you have it as an administrator. And what you're going to see here is this is the data. These are the data sets that form this Genie space. And what you can't do here that you could do in the BI is make new data sets out of SQL. You can only inherit data sets from Unity Catalog.
So you can't write a query in the query builder and then have the Genie reference it. It has to be in the catalog.
Well, you can, but it's you'll see how in a second, right? But you can't. You have to just consume the data sets as they are from the catalog. You could not at this stage say to yourself, "Oh, you know what? I want to write a SQL query to like do something to like generate, data that's not here, right? To reference a table that's not here."
Gotcha.
You just add these to it. Okay, so that's kind of what you do in data. Now, how many of these can you add? They recommend starting with 5 and not going over 25. And that is partially because they don't have a powerful semantic layer. Like a good data, we have a semantic layer that's got predefined joins and aliases and metrics and metadata and comments and all sorts of stuff that allows you to have a pretty big model, and the LLM can understand it pretty well. Not even that. I mean, it allows you to like select the right things to send to the model, and you can send the model the right context. You don't want to send the model a giant semantic layer, right? Necessarily.
No.
But
I think Juan did some papers about like comparing like sending like the relationships versus just like sending raw.
Yeah. Juan Cicada, for anybody who's like, who's Juan? He's at data.world. And he has some really great research that shows the difference between having a semantic layer with rich metadata versus just relying on text SQL. And at the time of his research, I seem to think it was the difference between almost 100% accuracy with the metrics, with the semantic layer, and something like 80% accuracy with text SQL. That's probably gotten better since then, because I think that research is about a year old. But
yeah, a year old and it's out of date.
Yeah, but okay, so you add the data, and then the next thing you're going to do is you define instructions for how you want these are instructions for how you want the Genie to behave. So you tell it here, for example, the first quarter is these 3 months. So if someone says, show me, and like this is a perfect example. Why would you want to do this? Well, if you're one of those companies that January is actually Q4 and the new year starts February 1st, you need to define that to the LLM. Because an LLM, if you say in Q1, is just going to assume that Q1 means January, February, March, not February, March, April.
Yeah, calendar year.
So you define those types of instructions here. You also say things like, if someone is asking for franchise ID, always include franchise name, right? So anytime you're tempted to just show the ID, also include the name, because people don't have the IDs memorized, right?
Gotcha.
So it's not useful. It's not a useful output. And then you force them to say, oh, could you please show me franchise ID as well? So this is more interesting to me. So these instructions, again, exist just for this space. You can have more than one space. And each space is supposed to be targeted to a particular domain and probably even a subdomain. So this is not like come in and ask any question of your data warehouse.
Gotcha.
This is, okay, the salespeople have questions about quota and attainment. So we're going to make a Genie space about quota and attainment. And we're going to provide an instruction set that helps Genie understand the language salespeople use, the metrics that are important, and all the quirks of like our sales department. And what does our sales department call these concepts? And what are the most important questions of them? You provide all those instructions here. And then it takes that into account.
Yeah, it probably literally inserts exactly these instructions into every prompt you send.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure that's what it does. And then the final thing you can do is you provide to it, let me delete this because let's remove that. There we go. Okay. What it does here is you provide it SQL queries and SQL functions from Unity Cat. So you can write a SQL query here, or you can pull a function out of Unity Catalog. You can define SQL functions in Unity. And then it can use these as examples, right? So let me just define one for you. And you'll see what I mean. So I'm going to add a new query. It's going to be an example query. And this will be whales are franchises that spend more than $1,000 weekly total. Okay. So what I've just taught it is if someone uses the term whales, right? What that means is this. And this is the SQL. This is the SQL that defines a whale.
Interesting.
So if we go back here and I say, show me my whales. Before I did this wouldn't have rendered results. Genie didn't know what a whale was. But now Genie you can see this analysis identifies as franchises that have generated over $1,000 sales during any given week. The results highlight the most successful franchises based on their weekly performance. So it interpreted, hey, someone asked for whales. I know what that means. Let me generate, this is the SQL that tells me a whale. And I can even look at the code that they have here and say, did it use exactly? And it did use exactly the SQL I put in because I asked a really simple question. Show me my whales. Mm-hmm. Now it can also use these in part, like as hints, right? So it's not just like, oh, it just takes this SQL off the shelf and uses it in its entirety. It can use this as like a clue to how to answer some other question. Now, I don't have a good example of that to show you, but that's what the documentation says.
Who are my top whales in each region? Does this have geographic data?
Yeah, it does, right? Like,
who are my top whales in each region?
Top whale by city. You know, I actually think it's the same in every city because this isn't a very rich data
This
set.
isn't. Yeah.
You know, but it will do its best now, right? It's going to use this definition of whale, and then it's going to write its own SQL that takes that into account. So this, I think, is pretty neat. Let's see what it comes back with. Now, I want to point out something it's not doing, right? Yeah. So here you can see.
See, look, it gave you the franchise. It didn't catch the instruction.
That's exactly what I was about to point out, Eric.
It did not catch that instruction.
It's not applying this instruction.
No.
Nope. And also,
it is in the visualization.
Right. Right.
But it's not in the table.
And then I would say, like, boy, this doesn't look right. You know, like, what are we visualizing here?
Like, yeah.
Right. And you can see there's nothing on the y-axis.
Yeah.
So what can you do at this point? Well, this is where the management features and like the feedback and the learning come in to Genie. So of course I can manually fix this, right? But the other thing I can do as an end user is I can say, you see, they say, is this correct? Your response makes Genie better over time. And I can say, yes, it's correct. Or no, I want to fix it. Or I want to request a review.
Mm-hmm.
So what this does, this is kind of, you know, yeah, it's good. Genie will learn, okay, that was good. I should do more of that. No, I want to fix it, or I want someone else to look at this because something seems off. Mm-hmm. So let's click that and say, this don't feel right, boss.
There you go.
And then send for review. Okay.
Review requested.
Review requested. Now park that for a second because we'll look at what that did in a minute. Okay. But first we're going to say, I can fix it, right? So I can say here what I think is wrong. The bars are all the same length and there isn't anything on the y-axis. Can you add weekly total? Submit and try again. So we'll see what it does.
Interesting.
I also think it's failing to apply the whale. Like the whales are only people who spent over 1,000, right?
Yeah.
But look here. It includes non-whales.
Yeah. So it didn't exactly understand what you were asking it.
Yep. And now it's like, no, I can't do that. So we've kind of like, you can see here.
Ooh, I've still got a job.
Yeah, exactly. We're all still employed, everybody.
I'm still employed.
We're all still employed. So you can see here what the kind of limitations are. Like we're pretty. This is not the world's most advanced set of questions we've asked, and we've kind of gotten ourselves into a black hole where like, how do I find my way out of this?
Yeah, you'd have to start over and hope.
Right.
You just have to do it.
And now this is kind of where the last two things I want to highlight are. So what have we seen so far? It's a fairly straightforward chatbot. It can't answer reasoning questions or like help, it can't help you solve problems, but it can answer questions about data. It is fairly basic and it's not well integrated into the BI product. So they call it AIBI like it's one product, but I would really argue that
you're saying that slash between the two is doing a lot of work.
It's a big ass slash.
Okay.
It's not one product. It's not well integrated at this point. And then it has a lot of very interesting infrastructure, which we've looked at so far, and we'll look at a little bit more in a second. But it's just not working super well right now. Now, what Databricks would probably say if they joined us on this call was like, well, yeah, this learns over time. And you're using a Genie instance that has no learning. So it's dumb right now. What you really need to do in the real world is like prime this thing. You need to set it up. You need to release it to a small group of users, who are going to accept the fact that it's dumb right now. Your power users, the people who really like you, and will work with you on the fact that like we just ran into a total brick wall trying to answer what might seem like a simple question. And they will work with you. You will improve the instructions. You'll provide more and better SQL queries. And that Gene, by the time you release it to the full audience, intended audience, it will be smart and it will be able to answer the questions we just put in here. Is probably what Databricks would say. Now, is that true? I don't know, because I haven't used it in that context.
Or are they going to be like, well, when I took my data in an Excel sheet, uploaded ChatGPT, it just worked. I didn't have to do all this other stuff to make sure it works for you. I just uploaded the Excel sheet to ChatGPT and it worked.
Yeah,
that could be what they say.
Exactly. So the final thing I want to show is like, what is that feedback loop? And it exists kind of in two places. One is in history, so you can kind of see like this is your personal last chats, so you can go through here and like see what did I do, and pick up a chat. Like this is a chat I did earlier today. I can restart it from here. This is just your stuff as an individual. Where kind of the monitoring, the overview for everybody comes into play is here on the monitoring tab. So here you can see the actual, each individual question someone has asked, how they rated it, and then if there's a, if it's a,
bad rating and comment.
Right. Like you can see here, right? I'm not sure if this worked. Right. And then you can look at it. And what it does is it shows you the SQL, right? And you can edit. So you can look at the context of what the user was asking. And then you get to the point where they said, this doesn't seem right to me. And it shows you the SQL that was generated that they said doesn't seem right. And what you can do is fix it so that it is right. And then you say, and then you say, checked it out, looks good now, dog. And then you say, Mark is reviewed. And now you just taught Genie something.
So did it add something to the like query knowledge earlier, or is at this point that is just nebulous background information?
Well, it didn't add anything here, right? It didn't add a new. There we go. Not sure why it's doing that. It didn't add anything here. So I think it's just some nebulous background learning that you don't have access to as an administrator.
Interesting.
But you could take that. One of the things you can do, like if we look at, let's look at one of these. Like what you see you can do. And here's the result, right? They reviewed it and said it's good, right? And then you can run.
So like the user would see that and be like,
the user would see, hey, I reviewed this.
Yeah. See this, it used the wrong field. So here I replaced the field. It looks good now.
Exactly. The user can see what was done, but it's quite technical, right? Like the user's going to look at this and say, I don't know.
Okay.
That's that nerd language.
I don't speak nerd.
You can from here, like add things to the instruction set.
Yeah.
So if you make something and you're like, okay, that's really useful, like add as instruction, and it will create a new instruction. You can see here.
Okay, so then you end up being like a library of like common queries,
exactly,
common questions, and the queries that answer them. That's actually kind of,
and that's where I think the promise of this tool lies.
That's neat.
Is in these management features and the way they're approaching it. I think for a targeted, if you take this domain-oriented approach and you say, we're not building a Genie space for a whole DW. We're not even necessarily building a single Genie space for HR. We're going to build a Genie space for questions related to payroll. And then we're going to build another one for questions related to time off and another one for questions related to benefits. And then we have 3 Genie spaces that are laser focused on those questions, like that question set and that domain. Then I think, and then you iterate and iterate and iterate, then I think it could probably be decently useful. And I do think this is a good foundation. Like they have the bones in place for something that I think could grow to a much more complicated. Eventually it could be, it's my whole DW and anybody can ask any question. Maybe.
Gotcha.
You can see like the scaffolding is here.
Yes.
So Ryan Goodman asks, so now that you course correct, can you ask the same question next time and get it right? Yes. Yeah. I didn't. So in this example, I didn't actually fix it, to be clear. So I can't show that right now. But I think that is how it works, right? Like now that we've answered, we've like fixed the question. If you ask the same question again, you'll get the right answer. Probabilistically.
Yeah.
Again, like
because it's LLM stuff. Like you don't just like it ignored the instruction for like don't display ID, display the name instead.
Right.
Like it ignored that instruction, even though that was certainly injected into the prompt.
Right. Now, if I put it, let's put in here again. It's let's put it in caps. Extremely important to never display franchise ID by itself. Always show franchise name alongside it. Okay. I've saved this in the instruction set. Now I think it is literally just providing this in the prompt.
Yes, that's being injected at the top of the prompt. I almost guarantee it.
So let's do a new thing. Show me total sales by for franchises.
And then we have a few other comments after.
Okay. And now it did it.
Now it did franchise ID and name.
Now it's got the franchise name. Gotcha. And this is what the way in which interacting with LLMs is like interacting with people. You can tell them what to do, and they won't always do it.
Nope.
And we are not used to that. The clearer
your instructions are, the better.
Exactly.
You'll be able to answer it, just like working with.
And we are just not used to that from computers. That you can tell it what you can give it an instruction set, and it can just totally ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been doing that, as y'all have seen. Over the course of this entire demo, we had this instruction in here, and it ignored it. Mm-hmm. And then I got mad, and I used all caps, and now it's listening. It knows. It's like my kids.
You should have put some of like the squirt gun emoji so it really knows.
Yeah.
That it's under threat if it does not.
It's real serious. So that's it. That's AIBI in a nutshell. That's your demo. So what is it? It is a good enough for basic use cases BI tool combined with a slightly underpowered but interesting foundation for a chatbot.
I think I was looking at like news articles before the show because just in case something comes up during the show, like I'm informed. I think it was like Databricks integrates Llama 4 in the new. So I think behind this might be Llama 4.
Yeah. I mean, presumably the goal is that you have these really rich general instructions. You have a really rich set of SQL queries to pull from. Mm-hmm. And you can see here's that one that we added, right? That we added in from here. It has a really rich set of SQL queries to pull from. And then maybe they can start putting in more reasoning where you can ask it speculative questions. Help me identify where I should put a new
even this,
store.
I could see this being useful because like there's so many questions at university that are asked all the time, like, how do you determine if a student was active in a semester? And it's like, well, here's the PDF that shows you some sample queries, and then just adjust it to your needs. But it's like, well, if it's all right here, then that question might be answered even quicker.
Exactly.
Yep. So we've got some comments. A few on ThoughtSpot. Reminds me of what ThoughtSpot was trailblazing some years ago.
Yeah, Johannes, it's exactly what ThoughtSpot was like in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another one from John. ThoughtSpot has similar functionalities. Can you compare ThoughtSpot features to Genie?
Well, yeah, John, I think I'm not up to date on exactly where ThoughtSpot is right now. And this is a pretty fast moving field. So I don't want to say something incorrect. really. So that could be a takeaway. Maybe we'll do a deep dive on ThoughtSpot at some point, and then we can
like
do a
I
more
was
direct
like
comparison.
I said, I was looking at the news, and it's like everything's like AI assistant added. Oh, I'm like, what are the BI updates from the last month? Everything was added. This company added AI assistant. This company improved their AI assistant. AI assistant. AI assistant. So it's like, yeah, maybe we want to do some more deep dives of the different AI assistants just to see, like, okay, like, so what is ThoughtSpot? ThoughtSpot was doing this 5 years ago. What's it doing now?
Right, exactly. I do think ThoughtSpot, certainly their marketing materials are more advanced than this, but good data. Databricks is, the Databricks marketing materials are also more advanced than what I just showed you.
Yes.
So, grain of
Hard
salt.
to say.
Grain of salt with all that stuff. Yeah, but I look. What would I score this like out of 10 right now? 6.
Yeah.
I
mean, I was like, if I had seen this, 5 years ago, I'd been like, this is wild.
Exactly.
But I've been using ChatGPT to write my Python scripts for a minute here, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So and the last thing I would say with this is, what's really clear to me is that the user interface for data and AI has not been discovered yet.
Yes.
The chatbot is interesting, but it has so many limitations. The biggest one being your ability to properly articulate what you need to the chatbot. I don't think it's that. It's not going to be that. In 10 years, there will be some market leader in data AI, and they will, I predict, have an interface that we haven't seen yet. I don't know what it'll be. If I did, I would found that company.
Yes.
Believe me, I'm thinking about it, but I don't have an answer yet. So this is an interesting tool. It's a good start. I would say if you are invested in Databricks and all this, like, good enough, this is good enough for like your internal low value stuff, to have your end users come in and use Genie to just churn out a few someone says, I need this dashboard. You're like, all right, done. Right. It's 20 minutes. It's done.
I'd say, at this point, maybe your analysts, maybe not your business users.
No, not your business users. But it's interesting, and we'll see where it goes. The last few things to touch on: the pricing. This is all free.
Well, with your Databricks stuff.
Correct. So how does Databricks make money from this? It drives more compute spend. There are more queries being issued. Those queries cost money. There's more data being stored. That data costs money. That's how Databricks makes money off of this. They're not charging anything for these features beyond the additional compute that it drives. And then the final thing is just, well, is this going to, like, do I predict what's going to happen with this? I don't know. I know that Databricks hired a team of product managers to do this. So, like, they've made an investment. They have a team that's working on this. I would expect that to continue and for it to get more and more advanced over time. But what form that's going to take, I don't have any idea. So we will wrap it up there, folks. Listen, thank you for sticking around with us and watching this. If you liked what you saw today, what I need you to do is go onto the event and click the share button and share it to your LinkedIn network. We are trying to grow the Super Data Brothers show here, and the only way we can do it is if you love what we do and you tell other people that you love it. That's the only way to do it. So do us a favor. If you want more reviews like this, let us know what you want reviewed, and we will take a look at it and see if we can do it. I think we're trying to line up a Metabase review for later this summer at some point. So you have that to look forward to. Also, we want to take a minute to thank today's sponsor one last time. That's Good Data. Good Data is committed to being the most accessible analytics platform in the world. And what that means is that everybody has access to data and can make sense of it and can use it to make decisions about business and life, no matter what limitations they may have. So this means practically speaking, excellent integration with screen readers. It means low contrast, or high, I always say low contrast, high contrast modes. It means all sorts of stuff like that. Not only is this the right thing to do to build accessibility into your analytics and data products, but increasingly it's becoming mandatory, especially if you do business in the European Union. We have real serious regulations coming on board. And, in Europe, they expect you to actually follow the law.
Yes. You get in trouble if you don't.
You get in trouble if you don't. And so if your analytics are not in compliance, let me tell you, your SaaS app is not in compliance either. Good Data can help. So check out gooddata.com. We've got Guinness is watching. It's good to see you here, Guinness. Guinness is my bro and also works at Good Data alongside me. Check out gooddata.com and learn why Good Data is the most accessible analytics platform on earth. All right. We're going to leave it there, folks. Thanks for joining us. I hope this was useful. Share it with your friends. What do we have on deck
for next week?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. I don't remember either. But tune in next week. It's going to be
Tune in next week. It's going to be sweet. Like this, share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube and you're watching on LinkedIn, hop over to YouTube and give us a subscription there. It really helps us out. And until next time, I'm Ryan.
I'm Eric.
Take care, everybody. Bye.